So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome in to Webinar Wednesday from Sight and Sound Technology on this, the 1st of October. On the east coast of Ireland, it is extremely warm and mild today, and I hope wherever you are in the world, the weather is relatively nice for this time of year. Now, it is the 1st of October, and October is when we celebrate National Braille Week, especially in the UK. So we decided to have a Braille themed webinar Wednesday, and I'm delighted that friend of Sight and Sound Technology, Matthew Horspool, who's also a bit of a Braille guru, has joined us, and I'll introduce Matthew properly in just a moment. And we'll be talking today about Split Braille, this great feature in JAWS, which really maximizes the use of a Braille display to allow you to show more than one type of view at a time. And Matthew will tell us all about that in just a moment. If you'd like to get in touch with us today and put a question to Matthew, you can do so either in chat or by raising your hand. You can press Alt and H if you're on Windows, Option and H if you're on a Mac, or if you're joining us on a mobile app, you can activate the chat button on your app of choice. Similarly, you can raise your hand, Alt and Y if you're on Windows, Option and Y if you're on the Mac, or activate the raise hand button on your app. We will come to raised hands and chat questions at the end of Matthew's presentations and presentation rather. And just to say that I've no doubt there will be quite a few questions at the end. So please, in the interest of trying to get through as many questions as possible and for as many people as possible to have their question aired, we would ask you to keep your question as brief as you can, and we'll do all this within an hour. So Matthew Horspool is General Manager at the Braillists Foundation. He's also the Code Maintenance Officer at the International Council on English Braille, and he's also a freelance JAWS trainer. And Matthew is a longtime friend of Sight and Sound Technology, has presented at previous Webinar Wednesdays, and we're absolutely delighted to have him back. So Matthew, welcome back, and delighted to hand over to you.
Thanks very much, Stuart. Wonderful introduction, and it's great to be back with Sight and Sound. It's an annual occurrence now, except that this one is in October rather than in August. But there you go. I said that I'd do a webinar about Split Braille, and then as I was thinking about this webinar about Split Braille, I kind of went, why on earth did I say I'd do a webinar about Split Braille? There's already some really, really good documentation available on Split Braille. Freedom Scientific did a very good webinar about Split Braille when it first came out. Humanware did another very good one. And so what I decided I would do in this webinar, rather than do a very factual kind of tour of Split Braille, is I thought I'd look at Split Braille from a user's perspective. And when I say a user's perspective, what I really mean is my perspective as a user. I have been using Split Braille pretty much since it came in on various lengths of Braille display. The first thing that I would say is that the longer your Braille display, the more useful Split Braille will be to you. I think somewhere there was a myth that said you could only use Split Braille on 40-cell displays or longer. I think actually I did once manage to get Split Braille to work on a 32-cell Braille Sense, and I'm sure it would also work on a 20-cell display. But I mean, there's really no point using Split Braille at that point because you'd only have 10 cells aside. 40 cells, it kind of works on. If you're lucky enough to have an 80-cell Braille display, then actually it's really nice because you get basically 2 lines of 40. And when Split Braille first came out, I started playing with everything. And I kind of went, well, yeah, I mean, I can make it do this, I can make it do this, I can make it do this. And over time, what's essentially happened is that I've found myself really not using some of the views and really finding some of the views absolutely invaluable. So I'll talk about the views that I use, and I'll talk a bit less about the views that I don't use, but perhaps I'll say why I don't use them. And that will probably take somewhere between sort of half an hour and 40 minutes or so. And then we'll just open it up for questions or discussion about Split Braille. I'll try and answer questions where I can. We might also have a discussion about where other people are using split braille and how people are finding it. In this webinar, we're going to be talking about split braille in the context of single line braille displays. There is increasingly a lot of talk going on about using split braille with multi-line braille displays like the Monarch. Unfortunately, I don't have a Monarch available to test, so I can't really talk about that from a user's point of view, but I imagine that a lot of what we're going to be talking about in this webinar on a single line display would also translate onto a multi-line display. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. So hopefully the screen share has come up, and I'll just pipe my JAWS through as well. There you go. So you should
we're hearing JAWS, Matthew. Yep.
There you go. You should be able to hear JAWS.
Yep.
And what I'm going to do to start with is actually go into the split braille dialog box and show you all of the different views that are possible in split braille. It will become clear as we go through. Basically, a view is a way of defining what exactly would you like to show on each side of the braille display. I suppose we ought to go back one step further than that, actually, and just explain for those who are not familiar with split braille. It's perhaps obvious that split braille is a way of showing two pieces of information on the braille display at once. It is limited to two pieces of information, and it's limited to the braille display being split into equal segments. At the moment, you can't do, for example, one side with 60 cells and one side with 20 cells. On an 80-cell display, it's two sets of 40. On a 40-cell display, it's two sets of 20. And actually, it's two sets of 39 and two sets of 19, because the way that you know whether the display is split or not is because you have dots 4, 5, 6, and 8 of the right hand side, and 1, 2, 3, and 7 of the left hand side. So you kind of end up with an enlarged 4 sign, which shows the split point. And as I say, the views is how the splits actually work. So to start split braille, we have to select a view, and the keystroke to select a view is Alt and JAWS key and V for view. So that's Alt Insert V on a desktop layout and Alt Caps Lock V in the laptop layout. So let's do that, and let's have a tour of all of the views that are available.
Select Braille view, list 1, no split, 1 of 9.
No split. Exactly as it says on the tin. This is the braille display in its traditional orientation, no splits at all. If the braille display is currently in a view and you want to essentially turn off split braille, you would come in here to do that, and you would just set it to no split. Let's down arrow through the list.
Buffered text, 2 of 9.
Buffered text is where you would see the active window on one side of the braille display, and as the name suggests, buffered text on the other side of the braille display. This is a feature that I use quite regularly. You can buffer all sorts of text in. You can buffer a document into it, or at least to a limited extent you can. You can buffer selected text. You can buffer text from the clipboard, and so on and so on. So one use of this was this morning, actually. I had to chair a meeting, and I had to look at the agenda, and I also had to look at various notes that I had about what I was going to say about each of the agenda items. And so what I did was buffer the agenda into the right-hand side of the braille display in buffered text view, and then the left-hand side of the display was free to read my notes, and I could also read my notes with speech if I wanted to. So we'll explore this in quite a bit of detail in just a moment.
Annotations, 3 of 9.
Annotations is one of these views that I've tried to use in the past, and every so often try to use it again. What it's supposed to do is, if you've got a Word document with, say, footnotes or endnotes or comments in, it's supposed to be able to show the text on one half of the Braille display and the footnotes, endnotes, comments, etc. on the other half of the Braille display. I find that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you have to put the cursor in quite a specific place in order to make it work, and I find that the act of trying to make it work means that it's less useful than it could be.
Attribute indicators, 4 of 9.
Attribute indicators, on the other hand, is one of those which I use quite regularly. This is a way of showing, for example, let's say I've got some text and some of it is normal style and some of it is bold. It's a way of being able to show the text on the left-hand side of the display and information about whether it's normal or bold or italics or underline, etc. on the other side of the display.
Speech history, 5 of 9.
Speech history is simple to explain, but again, not one that I tend to use very often. Literally, anything that JAWS says will be displayed in the right-hand side of the Braille display, and the active window will be displayed on the left-hand side of the Braille display.
Translation split, 6 of 9.
Translation split is useful if you're learning Braille, I think. It's a way of being able to show two different Braille tables for the same text. So, for example, I could show it in grade 2 on one half of the display and in grade 1 on the other half of the display.
JAWS cursor, 7 of 9.
JAWS cursor is one of those that I really would like to be useful. There are certain times when I'm sure it is useful. There are a lot of times where I really want it to be useful, but it sort of isn't because the JAWS cursor doesn't work all that well. But this allows you to park the JAWS cursor on a particular line, and indeed you can move the JAWS cursor up and down by panning up and down. And so you see the JAWS cursor on the right-hand side of the Braille display and the active cursor on the left-hand side. This could be useful in a terminal environment, for example, if you want to track what's going on in the terminal and also be able to show what text you're typing into the terminal.
Window text, 8 of 9.
Window text, in theory, allows you to see text from two different windows at the same time. Again, it's one that I can certainly see the use for, but I've struggled to actually get it to work.
Message list plus preview pane off, 9 of 9.
And the final one in this list is a unique one to Microsoft Outlook and probably the part of Split Braille that I use most often. What this does is it shows your Outlook message list on one half of the Braille display and it shows the preview pane on the other half of the Braille display. This is actually very similar to what a sighted user would see in Microsoft Outlook if the preview pane was turned on, and it allows you to read the first few lines of any emails you receive without having to press enter on the message. So this is actually a significant time saver. There are other views which I won't talk about here, but there are also some other application specific views, like there are some views in Teams to be able to view the chat content on one half of the display and the chat edit field on the other half of the display. So, for example, you could be writing a chat and want to be able to see on the Braille display if new messages are coming in. So some applications also have their own splits. For now, let's start at the bottom of the list then. So I have message list plus preview pane off. I'm going to press enter now to activate that split.
Unread, Angela Pearl, FS, Grey Mar leggings and oversized hoodie set, 01 October 2025, 11:58.
All right, now, the folder that I'm in Outlook is the folder for a list called Recycle It. Recycle It is a buy and sell list for blind and partially sighted people. And the reason why I'm in the Recycle It folder is because there's nothing really to worry about in here. There's nothing confidential in here. It's just people buying and selling stuff. The sound that you heard is just a sound that I have in my sound scheme. It's not to do with split Braille. But on the Braille display now, I can see on the left-hand side of the display, unread, Angela Pearl via groups.io. And then if I go along, I've got dots 4568. And if I go along again, I've got dots 1237. And then I've got on the right-hand side of the display, hi, never worn, and in as new. If you're a sighted person and you're following along, hopefully you'll be able to see the Braille viewer on the screen, which is also showing this. So we have these two regions of the screen. One of the challenges of split Braille is that you need to be able to navigate both regions of the screen, or both regions of the Braille display. So I have Angela Pearl via groups.io on the left-hand side of the display. I need to be able to pan down on the left-hand side without affecting the right-hand side in order to access the rest of this. I need to be able to read the subject. Now, the keys that you use to do this will depend on your Braille display. If you're using a humanware Braille display, so the Mantis or the Brailliant or APH displays like the Chameleon or the NLS e-reader humanware edition, there are 4 thumb keys on the front of your display, 2 thumb keys on the left, and then there's the home button in the middle, and then 2 thumb keys on the right. On humanware displays, you're going to be using the left 2 thumb keys to pan forwards and backwards through the left-hand side of the display, and the right 2 thumb keys to pan forwards and backwards through the right-hand side of the display. On focus Braille displays, there are the sort of the panning buttons with the arrows, but then there's also the, I think they call them the panning rockers, the sort of the keys that are like little V-shaped keys almost with a dip in the middle. On a focus display, you would use the left of these to pan the left-hand side of the display, and you would use the right of these to pan the right-hand side of the display. This is something that's really, really difficult to demonstrate because you're not going to be able to hear what's going on. But
unread, Sean Wood. Unread, Angela Pearl.
I will just press one of these panning buttons now, and yeah, I can see now the left-hand side of the display is panned down, so I can see Recycle It, FS, Grey, and so on and so on, and I can keep pressing these buttons now to pan through. And likewise on the right-hand side, I can keep pressing the right-hand panning button to move the right-hand side of the display down. And yeah, if you can see the Braille viewer, you can see the Braille moving up and down. If not, then it's perhaps not a very good demonstration. There's not a lot else to show here, except if I press the down arrow key.
Unread, Sean Wood, wanted, Apple Watch Series 7 or 6, 01.
There we go. So Sean Wood. And so on the left-hand side of the Braille display, I've now got Sean Wood via groups.io. And on the right-hand side of the Braille display, I can see, hi all, has anyone got for sale? And then pan it down, Apple Watch Series 7 or Series 6, question mark. So this is really useful. I can just arrow through my list of messages.
Unread, Angela Pearl, FS, Silvery Vitality Ring first.
Fine. And what's really nice about it is that I don't even have to look at the left-hand side of the Braille display. I can hear my speech, read the left-hand side of the Braille display, and read the actual message list. And while my speech is busy telling me who the message is from and what the subject is and what the date is and so on, my fingers can be reading the right-hand side of the Braille display and can be reading the preview pane. So yeah, this is a feature that I use really quite often, and it saves me a lot of time. Just in the interest of resetting things, I'm going to go back into split Braille, so Alt and JAWS key and V.
Select Braille view, list with no split, 1 of 9.
And I'll just reset this to no split.
Unread, Angela Pearl, FS, Silvery Vitality Ring first press.
The reason why I've done that is because I've found that sometimes when you Alt-Tab between windows, sometimes the Braille split can be reset. And so I just want to be at a common starting point before we carry on. What I'm going to do now is Alt-Tab into Microsoft Word, and we're going to have a look at the attribute split, because this is another one that I use fairly regularly.
Zoom web document 1 word. Document 1 word.
Okay. I'm going to press Control Home to go to the top of the Word document. And I'm already at the top. So I'll do a JAWS key up arrow to read the current line.
Video provides a powerful way to help you prove your point when you click online. Video, you can paste in the embed code for the video you want to add. You can also type a keyword to search online for the video that best fits your document.
Okay. Anybody who's seen any sort of training video will be very familiar with this text. This is some default text that you can make Word add into your document. I've been through this text and added some bold and italics and underlines and things like this. And thanks to a new feature in JAWS that came in fairly recently, I can actually see the UEB typeform indicators for these now. So if I go back up to the top and I read this through, video provides a powerful. And I can see that the word powerful is in bold because I have dots 4, 5 followed by dot 2 on my Braille display. A powerful way to help you prove your point. When you click online video, and online video is showing as underlined. I've got dots 456.2 before underlined, before online, sorry, and 456.2 again before video. What I don't know is whether the space between online and video is also underlined. I presume it is, but I don't know for sure, because whether or not the space was underlined or not in UEB typeform marks, I would still have a word indicator for online and a word indicator for video. So what to do about this? Well, I should be able to use attribute split to be able to test this out. So what I'm going to do is go back to the top again, and I'm going to actually I'll just pan back up to the top. There we go. And I'm going to do Alt and JAWS key and V.
Select Braille view. List 1. No split. Buffered text. Annotations. Attribute indicators.
There's attribute indicators, and we will press Enter. And now on the left-hand side of the display, I've got video provides a bold, powerful way to. On the right-hand side of the display, I've got NNNNNN space NNNNNNNN space N space B B B B B B B. So what does this mean? Well, if I've got an N, then it means the text is normal. If I've got a B, it means the text is bold. So if I'm looking for where the bold text is, I actually can just run my fingers across the Braille display until I find the B's and go, well, the B's are kind of, 2/3 of the way along this line. And now I'll go 2/3 of the way along the left-hand line. And, yes, I can see the word powerful. So that shows that the word powerful is in bold. Let's go down a bit, though. Let's pan. Let's see. If I pan the left-hand side down.
5500.
Just excuse me while I do that.
Top.
Provide point when you click on. There we go. So when I was in Outlook and I panned the left-hand side of the display down, the right-hand side of the display didn't change. Now that I am in Word and I'm using attributes, now I'm finding that as I pan the left-hand side, the right-hand side is also changing to keep up. And this is very useful because that is actually what I wanted to do. So here's the second line. You prove your point. When you click, and word wrap isn't working terribly well, but when you click online, and at the very end of online, I've got you. So that's showing that it's underlined. And I can keep panning all the way through this, and I can see that that's also underlined. And I can see that video is also underlined, and then I can see that it goes back to normal. So this is a useful way, of checking the exact extent of whether something is underlined or not. It's also, as I say, a very useful way of just looking for attributes. I'm looking for the thing that's in italics. So I'll just keep going. I'm not really paying much attention. I can just see I've got lots of N's, lots of N's, lots of N's. We'll keep going, still lots of N's. Eventually I'll come across something that's in italics because I put something in italics, but I'm not there yet. I'll keep going. Ah, yes, there we go. That doesn't look like N's to me. I've got Word provides italics header, italics footer, and so on. Let's put the cursor there and let's get Jaws to read that paragraph.
To make your document look professionally produced, Word provides header, footer, cover page, and text box, footnote, reference style, footnote 1.
Screen reader accessibility is not optimal.
Parentheses that complement each other. For example, you can add...
All right, fantastic. I've got some footnotes in here. So this is a good opportunity to show the annotation split. Let's go into Split Braille.
Select Braille view, list 1, attribute indicators, annotations.
And we'll press enter. Okay. Now, at the moment, I've got a full Braille line. To make your document look professionally produced, Word provides header, footer, and the focus has just got lost. There you go. Cover page and text box, footnote 1, designs to complement each other, or that complement each other. So I can keep reading this. I can see that there's a number 1. If I want to see what the number 1 is, like what is the text of this footnote, I'm going to put the cursor onto the word box. I'm going to press the cursor routing button above the word box. And the cursor should have moved, but it hasn't. Oh, yes, it has. It's moved now. And this is what I mean about annotation view. It's not quite working. Let's put the cursor above the number 1 instead. Now that's done it. So now on the Braille display, I can see footer, cover page, and text box, and then a number 1. And then immediately after, the number 1 happens to be in cell 39 or 38. So immediately after that, I've got my 4, 5, 6, 8 and my 1, 2, 3, 7. And then on the opposite side of the Braille display, I can now see footnote 1, which says screen reader accessibility is not, and I should be able to pan through that. Yes, I can, is not optimal. As soon as I pan away from the footnote, certainly on the left-hand side of the Braille display, what should happen is that the footnote should disappear. That doesn't seem to be happening at the moment, so I'll just press a cursor routing button somewhere else, and that has moved the cursor to the right place, and that has made the footnote disappear. But that's a way of being able to see footnotes. It's also a way of being able to see endnotes. It's also a way of being able to see comments and so on. The final thing I want to really spend some time on before we open it up for discussion is the view that is buffered text. To start buffered text, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all
17.9.
and I'm going to copy that text to the clipboard.
Copied.
The reason why will become clear in just a moment.
Top.
I'm now going to go into Alt Insert V.
Select Braille View. List 1. Annotations.
And I'm going to find buffered text.
Buffered text.
Now, so far in this dialog box, we've just been using up and down arrow and we've been pressing enter, and that's been getting us into the various views that are available in Split Braille. However, if we tab around this dialog box, there are other controls available to us.
OK.
The first one of these is a read-only edit box that explains what the view actually does.
Focus control plus buffered text from the current document.
Focus control plus buffered text from the current document. So it's a very terse description. You still kind of want to play with it to be able to work out what it does, but it does tell you what it does.
OK. Alt plus O.
I've got an OK button.
Cancel. Alt plus C.
And a cancel button, and you could be forgiven that that's all there is, but we'll keep going.
Default. Alt plus D.
I've got a default button which resets the options to the defaults, and that will become clear when we tab again.
Options ... Alt plus O.
Here are some options. Now, most views actually have an options button. There sometimes are more options than others, but they've all got one. So let's have a look at the options for buffered text.
Set Braille view options. List 1. Buffer unit selected text.
Buffer unit says, what do I actually want to include in the buffer? And I can move through these with the spacebar.
Buffer unit clipboard text. Buffer unit clipboard text. Buffer unit paragraph. Buffer unit paragraph.
So that's the current paragraph under the cursor.
Buffer unit document up to 64 KB. Buffer unit document up to 64 KB.
That's the entire document, as it says, up until 64K. So when 64K is reached, then it won't buffer anymore.
Buffer unit selected text. Buffer unit selected text.
And then we're back around to selected text. I'm actually going to go one more to clipboard text.
Buffer unit clipboard text. Buffer unit clipboard text.
And having set that option, I'm going to press the down arrow key.
Refresh buffered text on enter off.
So when I press enter to go to a new line, do I want the buffer to refresh? This could potentially be useful in a view like paragraph, where I'm buffering an entire paragraph and then I want to refresh the buffer when I press enter. In this case, I don't. I want the buffer to remain static, so I'll leave that alone.
Display split separator on.
If I want to gain 2 extra cells, I can turn off the 4, 5, 6, 8 and 1, 2, 3, 7 separator.
Show split data on right.
Where do I want the split data to be? In other words, where do I want the active window to be? So if it's showing the split data on the right, it means that the active window is on the left. Conversely, if I press the space bar,
show split data on left. Show split data on left.
Now it's showing the split data on the left, which means it will show the active window on the right.
Show split data on right. Show split data on right.
I'm quite happy with it on the right. That's fine by me. And that's all that we have in here. So let's tab around and see what other options we've got.
Close, Alt plus C.
I've got a close button, which closes the window and saves the options.
Execute, Alt plus E.
The execute button is the same as pressing the space bar.
List 1.
And then I get back around to the list view. So let's close this dialog box. I'll tab to the close button.
Close, Alt plus C.
And press the space bar. And here we are. I've now basically got 2 versions of the document showing. I've got the version on the left-hand side, which is in the document itself, and I've got the version on the right-hand side, which is in the buffer. Video provides a powerful way to, and I can pan through this. Except for some reason I can't. Oh, isn't it great when it works? I can just see video provides a powerful way to, and I don't appear to be able to pan through this. Let's try this with something like the document instead then. Let's rebuffer this. So let's say the buffer hasn't worked, which it hasn't. I'm going to do Alt and JAWS key and V again.
Select Braille view, list 1, buffered text.
Fine. I'll go to options. So I'll shift tab.
Options ... Alt+O.
Interestingly, on the right-hand side of the Braille display, I can still see video provides a powerful way to, and I still can't pan through it. So we'll change this to document.
Set Braille view options. List 1. Buffer unit clipboard text. Buffer unit paragraph. Buffer unit document up to 64 KB. Buffer unit.
All right, and I'll press enter. And now I can see video provides a powerful way to, and I can see video provides a powerful way to. Interestingly, when it said video provides a powerful way to when it was clipboard text, it was just text and it was in computer Braille. Whereas now it's showing video provides a powerful way to, and powerful is showing up in bold, which is really quite a nice touch. Now, can I pan through it? Yes, I can, to help you prove your point. Marvelous. So let's assume that this document is an agenda. At the moment, I'm just demonstrating split Braille, so fair enough. But let's say I was demonstrating some other concept. Let's say I was doing a demonstration of how to use the ribbons, and I was demonstrating it in Microsoft Outlook, but I wanted to keep my notes available on the Braille display. I can do this using this view, and like I did with my agenda this morning. I've got the whole document in the right-hand side of the Braille display. It will stay on the Braille display now until I get rid of split Braille completely. So if I Alt-Tab back to Outlook...
Recycle at Horspool at live.co.outlook. Recycle at Horspool.
I can see on the left-hand side, I can see my Outlook message list. And on the right-hand side, I can still see my video provides a powerful way to help you prove your point. So again, this might be useful. Let's say I'm writing an email and I want to be able to summarize a Word document in the email that I'm writing. Or let's say in a training context, this is sometimes when I use this. Let's say I've done a training session. I've written up some notes, but they're pretty rough and ready, to be honest. So I don't really want to copy and paste them into an email. I want to be able to tidy them up as I copy and paste them in. I can buffer my notes into the right-hand side of buffered text, and then I can go into my email and start typing. And I can see on the right-hand side, I can see Control-N, new email, and I can then write that out in long form. To start a new email, press Control+N. And I can then just keep going through the buffer, and I don't have to Alt-Tab now between my Word document containing my notes and my email. I can just read the whole thing through in Braille and type it out. So it's now coming up on 22, and I think I've probably done enough demonstrating of various aspects of split Braille for now. I certainly haven't covered everything that there is to cover about split Braille, but hopefully it's whetted your appetite a bit. So I will stop at this point and see if there are any questions or any comments.
Thanks, Matthew. Wonderful presentation as always. It's great to have you back. You always do a great session, and really interesting there. In-depth look at split Braille. A couple of comments on chat from Adele, who's sort of just chatting about the Braille display he uses, and I think he's just confirming some of the things you've been talking about, and I think he's experimenting with split Braille, which is great to hear. If you would like to ask a question, you can raise your hand at this point. Bring your questions to Matthew, Alt and Y, Option and Y, or you can do so on your mobile app. Matthew, while we're waiting for questions, I might throw in a sneaky one of my own, if you don't mind. Can you determine the size of the split? So if you maybe just wanted a small split on the right-hand side, can you move the split, for example?
Not at the moment, at least not as far as I've been able to tell. As far as I know, it's even splits on either side of the Braille display. I know that when we were testing this out, a few people did comment that it would be nice to be able to move the split. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that in the future. But no, not for the time being.
Okay. Still a hugely powerful feature. And Julie Napier is telling us that she's playing with split Braille as well, which is great to hear. And Matthew, you've given all sorts of scenarios there, I suppose, for where you use it. That 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 one of using the preview pane in Outlook sounds particularly useful. Do you find you're kind of quicker managing email with that?
Yes, I think I do actually. I find that my enter key gets less of a bashing, that's for sure. And like obviously, if you want to read an email, then you're going to have to press enter and read an email. But sometimes you get an email and it literally just says, "No worries, see you later," or "Great, thanks," or "Can't do that right now, but can I call you tomorrow?" And those sorts of emails in particular, you find that you're pressing enter to read one line and then you're pressing escape to go back to the message list, just to be able to see those first few lines, to be able to work out actually is it worth the effort of pressing enter or not, is extremely valuable.
Okay, and just to confirm, in terms of versions of the software that people might be, if people want to experiment with this, if you haven't used it already, 2024 and upwards, isn't that right?
I think that's right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Now, I do have a raised hand from Chantal Griffiths. So, and if anyone else wants to raise their hand, by the way, we have a couple of minutes to ask Matthew questions. But Chantal, you're the first, so you should be able to unmute yourself. And there we go. Hi,
Matthew,
Chantal.
thanks. Hi, Matthew. Thanks for the presentation. Hi, Stuart. It's really interesting to hear when you were talking about using the attribute mode. Now, from what you were saying, I gather that you only have access to a cursor on the left-hand side of the display, the working side.
I think that's right. Yeah, for attribute mode, when you pan the left-hand side down, then the right-hand side also pans down.
When you you mentioned, for example, when you saw a normal a block of normal text versus bold text. So is there a way to center the cursor on the bold word and have that somehow indicated on the right-hand side or just on the left-hand side?
So the words are shown on the left-hand side, and the
Yep.
whether or not it's bold or not is shown on the right-hand side. So it's a cell for cell thing. So if the bold word starts in cell 10 on the left-hand side, then the B's will start in cell 10 on the right-hand side.
Yes, but there's no cursor. Only the cursor would only be on the left-hand side. Is that correct?
I think so. Let's test that though. I'll do that. I'll go back into attribute indicators and I'll put the cursor on the P of powerful, and now the cursor has moved. The cursor's oh, there you go. The cursor is on powerful, but actually JAWS is showing it on the bold indicator rather than no, actually I've got a cursor on both sides. I've got a flashing cursor on P for powerful, and I've got a flashing cursor on the first letter B.
Because I was thinking that could be quite a useful feature and it would help if the cursor showed up on both sides. So thank you for answering the question and for testing that.
Yeah, no worries. Yes, I'm going to have a play with that now. I wonder if I can cursor route. So if I cursor route to the underline on the right-hand side, yeah, it's moved the cursor on the left-hand side. Well, there you go. You learn something new every day.
Thanks, Matthew.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chantal, for your question. Great that these things happen. This is a live event. This is what happens. Okay. I'm just going to, sorry, apologies. Anybody else who wants to raise hand, Alt and Y or Option and Y on Mac? So I don't have any more raised hands. I'm going to give it just another moment, Matthew, in case anybody would like to ask any questions. Otherwise, you have clearly done a really good job of explaining this to everybody. I suspect a lot of people are jumping off to try this out. If you have a 40 cell Braille display or more, do go and try it out. And I think you're right what you say about, okay, I guess in theory you can do this on any Braille display, but I think anything less than 40 might not be very practical for using this.
I think that's right. Yeah, you really want to be doing it on a 40 cell display or more. in order to get maximum benefit from it. But I think it does work on displays that are less than 40 cells. So,
Yeah.
I mean, by all means, try it if you
Have a play.
If you want to. One of the things that I would really like to see in a future version of JAWS is actually to be able to split it across multiple displays. So if I've got two 20-cell displays, then to be able to split like that would be quite useful and show, one thing on one 20-cell display and one thing on another 20-cell display. But we're not there yet either.
It's the blind person's version of dual monitors, right?
Yeah. Yeah, very
Yeah,
much so.
I like it. Okay, maybe we'll talk about that this time next year. You can come back and tell what feature is there.
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, I could. The one thing I didn't show, which I'll try and show if you like, before we wrap it up, is the JAWS cursor split.
Oh yeah.
Because I haven't talked about it, and I perhaps ought to. The reason why I haven't talked about it is because I'm finding fewer and fewer areas where the JAWS cursor actually works. One of the things that I really wanted to be able to use the JAWS cursor split for is in Notepad. I use Notepad to edit BRF files, and across the bottom of Notepad on the status bar, I can see the line and column numbers. And what I really wanted to be able to do was park the JAWS cursor on those line and column numbers, and then be able to see the line and column numbers moving all the time. I can't do that because the JAWS cursor doesn't work in Notepad. So, I'm kind of restricted in what I can show it in. But what I'll try and do is I'll go into a terminal window, I think, and try and show the JAWS cursor view in a terminal window. So let's do that. I'll go into command prompt.
Desktop folder view not selected, recycle bin.
And I can see C:\Windows /system32 /cmd.exe. I will go into JAWS cursor mode straight away. So I'll do Alt Insert V for view.
List 1, no split, 1 of 9.
And I'll press J for JAWS cursor. Actually, interestingly, in terminal, I've got 1 of 9.
Command prompt history split off, 9 of 9.
So there is actually a dedicated command prompt history split in terminal. Well, again, you learn something new every day. But let's go to JAWS cursor for now.
JAWS cursor, 7 of 9.
And I'll press enter on JAWS cursor.
C Windows System 32 CMD.X, command prompt.
And what I'll do is I'll park the JAWS cursor one line up from the bottom.
JAWS to PC. Bottom, C users Moores. Space. PC.
Please forgive the beeping noises. I've got some indentation alerts on, and I've forgotten to turn them off. So the JAWS cursor is parked towards the bottom of the screen, and I need to now type a command. Let's type something that we know is going to give us lots of output. Let's type help, H-E-L-P, and press enter. JAWS hasn't said anything. This happens sometimes in command prompt.
C Windows. JAWS, bottom, C user space. For more information on tools, see the command line reference in the online.
Fine.
PC.
So I can see the bottom line of help. So on the right-hand side of the Braille display now, I can see for more information on tools, see the command line reference, etc., etc., etc. I can pan through now what's on the screen with the JAWS cursor just by panning up and down using my panning buttons on the Braille display, panning the right-hand side of the Braille display. Not much of a demonstration, but there you go. You can do it. And now if I go ahead and type another command, let's type dir and press enter.
Volume and drive C has no label. Volume serial number is E8791FDD.
So if I now that the JAWS cursor has actually stayed where it is, it still says for more information on tools. But if I start to pan down now, I can see volume in drive C has no label. And on the left-hand side of the display, I can see nothing. But if I up arrow now,
C users Moores dir. C users Moores dir.
I can see on the left-hand side of the display, C:\users blah 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 dir. So I can browse up and down through the command history. And on the right-hand side, I can see the output of the command that I just entered. So this is perhaps a nerdy thing to demonstrate, because you've got to understand what I'm doing in the terminal in the first place and why you would want to use the JAWS cursor in the terminal. So I'm sorry if that's kind of gone above people's heads a little bit, but it's probably the best example I can give you of the way that the JAWS cursor split works and how the JAWS cursor split can be quite useful.
Okay, thanks, Matthew. No, great example. Before I go to a raised hand from David Stevenson, I just wanted to flag something that came up in chat from Svetlana, who is a regular, one of our comes to our webinars regularly and good friend of Sight and Sound. And Svetlana mentions, Matthew, that that the buffered view is very useful for translation when you're working with more than one language. She uses that a lot. I could see that being very useful. So thanks, Svetlana, for that. David, we would love to hear your question, so you should be able to unmute yourself. And we would love to hear from you. And I'll just send an unmute request again, because sometimes it doesn't always happen. Hiya, David.
Hello there. I'm pretty good, thanks. This may seem a very silly question. It's so silly that I'm not quite sure how to word it. But if you have a Braille display that has wheels, do the wheels sometimes get in the way of what you're actually doing? And if they do, is there any way of disabling the wheels? Does that make sense?
You're talking about the whiz wheels, I presume.
The whiz wheels, yeah.
Yeah, on the focus displays.
Yeah.
I'm just testing it now. And no, they don't get in the way. What seems to be happening is that the left focus wheel is panning the left-hand side of the display, and the right whiz wheel is panning the right-hand side of the display. So, no, I don't think they would get in the way. I think they would actually be quite useful if you've got a display that has those wheels.
Oh, well, that's useful to know. But is there any way of disabling the wheels?
Yes. Now, what is the keystroke for disabling the wheels? I will look that up. I can't remember what it is. I'll have a look and I'll come back to you before the end of the session on that. I'll have to look in the key map for it. It's not a split Braille command. It's just a regular command that's in the key map, but there is a way to do it, yes.
No, that's lovely, and that's useful to know that one wheel does one and the other does the other. That's useful to know as well. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Thanks for your question. Great to hear from you. It's interesting, those whiz wheels. I think they're great. You know, they're not around as much anymore. So yeah, great question. If anybody else wants to ask a question, last minute or two to do that. If you want to raise your hand. And if there's something, maybe, because this is, I know, a very kind of specialist topic, people may wish to go and play with this. If there's something you think of afterwards and you have a burning question, please send it in to us and I'll share it with Matthew, and hopefully we'll be able to help you out. Okay, Matthew, not to put you under pressure, but do you have any news on the whiz wheels for us?
I'm still looking.
Okay, no problem. Carlos Savage is checking. I'm assuming that would also work with nav rockers. I think she's talking, Matthew, about the fact that the whiz wheels kind of pan the left hand side and the whiz wheel on the right pans the right side. Can you do the same with the nav rockers?
Yes. Yeah, in fact, it was nav rockers that I was testing it on, actually.
Okay.
So I was making an assumption that it would work with whiz wheels, but I'm sure it does. I think it's space, and you know how on the whiz wheels you can press in on the whiz wheel to make it change mode. I think it's space and press in on the whiz wheel in order to get the whiz wheels on and off. Certainly with the nav rockers, it's space and the nav mode button to turn the nav rockers on and off. So I presume it would be the same with the whiz wheels.
There you go. David, you can try that out and let us know if it worked. And Julie is asking, I don't know, Matthew, if you want to give us a quick description. What are whiz wheels? We're going right back.
Gosh, I guess I don't know where mice started to have the wheel in the center. So you've got a left mouse button, and then you've got a scroll wheel, and then you've got a right mouse button. The whiz wheels, I think, were literally mouse wheels. Actually, I think they were exactly the same technology that were put on certain Braille displays. So we saw them on I think they first came in on the Braille Light
The
Millennium.
Braille Light, yeah, that's exactly, yeah.
The Braille Light Millennium, and then they made their way onto the Focus displays and the PackMate displays, I think. And I can't remember when they got phased out. Was it the 4th gen Focus displays when they started to phase those out?
I think so.
Probably just because of costs of making them, I guess, and perhaps repair costs. But yeah, they were just literally at either end of the Braille display, at either end of the line, there was a wheel, and you could roll the wheel up and down, and it would very rapidly, very, very rapidly move the display a line at a time, a sentence at a time, a paragraph at a time, and so on.
There was something very satisfying about scrolling that wheel, I think.
I can well imagine.
They were great. Okay, listen, thank you everybody for attending a really informative session today, but a huge thanks, of course, to Matthew. Matthew, great session, and as I said earlier, I think a lot of people will be going off to have a play with this. We look forward to joining everybody for our next webinar Wednesday in November. We'll be back on the 5th of November. Looking forward to joining you all then. Until then, have a good month. And again, Matthew, thanks a million for your presentation today.